Everyone, I'm back with a new video, and this time I'll discussing how to write a short story and simple 5 steps I'll discussing with you. So stay on for the video and you will understand it how to write a short story. So what are short stories actually? So short stories are to novels what TV episodes are to movies. So short stories are a form of narrative writing that has all the same elements as novel: plot, character, development, point of view, story structure, theme, but are delivered in fewer words. Actually, for many writers, short stories are a less daunting way to dive into creative writing than attempting to write a novel actually. This doesn't mean writing short fiction is easy, it's like very other kind of writing comes with its own unique challenges. If you're wondering how to write a short story, I am here. So I have got some tips, everything from coming up with short story ideas to fleshing out a plot to getting your work published in literary magazines actually. So I'll be discussing all the things with you, maybe in this video or in the next video. It depends on how much time it will take. So what is a short story? A short story is a self-contained work of fiction that generally falls between 1000 to 10,000 words. It cannot exceed actually 10,000 words, then it's like a normal story actually. So because of this length constraint, short stories tend to be less complex than longer works in certain ways. In a short story, you can build a world, but not to extend, you can build a world in a longer novel. So similarly, you can have multiple fleshed out characters, but you can't give away every character a full backstory and meaningful character arc like that. You can lend your world. So generally, long intricate plots with multiple subplots are better suited novel length works than a short story actually. So don't take this to mean to your short story theme can't be as deep as longer works theme. So you don't need an extensive world with a complex magical system and an entire cast of three-dimensional characters to express a theme effectively. So while short stories have fewer words, simpler settings and smaller cast, the novels they can have just as much as an impact on readers. If you are looking to read a powerful short story and see how other authors communicate substantive themes in just a few thousand words, check out some of the famous works like The Thing Around Your Neck by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, The Lottery by Shirley Jackson, Thank You Ma'am by Langston Hughes, or Sony's Blues by James Baldwin. So that are some works that you can go through if you want to know how short stories can be structured. So how long should a short story be? Like I said in the previous section, short stories typically contain between 1000 and 10,000 words. Stories longer than 10,000 words but shorter than 40,000 words are generally considered as novels. So you might even across the term novelette to refer to a story between 7,500 words to 17,000 words. Once you hit around 50,000 words, you are in novel territory, and you have one nanobrimo. That's actually a something term given to the novelist. So stories that clock in under 1000 words are known as flash fiction, and stories of 500 words of you are considered as microfiction. So there's really no limit to how short story can be, though considered Hemingway's famous 6-word story, For Sale, Baby Shoes, Never Worn. In just 6 words, Hemingway works an entire scene and the backstory that led to that scene. This is an extreme example of a short story actually, and it relies on the reader extra plotting meaning from the words, but because it does so successfully, it counts as a short story. What's in a short story? So it's the third part of the video, and this is uh, what a short story should contain. So every short story has 5 elements: character, plot, theme, conflict, settings. So what are characters? Characters are the people who do the action in your story. You are protagonist as a character who undergoes some kind of change. Uh, your antagonist is a character or something abstract attempting to prevent the protagonist change. To clarify, the antagonist doesn't have to be a person. It could be the protagonist, environment, or their society, or even aspect of themselves. So plot. The second part, that is plot. Plot is a series of events that illustrates a story's conflicts. When you are writing a short story, it's generally best to start your plot as to close to the end as possible. In other words, if your story is about an alien who visits the Earth and then retreats, horrified, back to the spaceship, start your story just as she's approaching Earth or just as she's touching down. You can build up a backstory later through tools like dialogue. So flashbacks on the protagonist action. Write a short story. You don't have space for a lengthy explosion, so drop your readers right into the action. A short story's theme is a central message. This is the point the author wants readers to take away from the work, actually. So the other point is conflict. So conflict is the action that drives the story's plot. It's the obstacle that protagonist has to overcome or the goal they are attempting to reach. A conflict can be internal, like our example, alien setting out to prove to herself that she can manage a mission Earth on her own, or it can be external, like the protagonist striving to prove to her society that Earth is a worthwhile planet with which to establish a relationship. The fifth one, that is setting. Setting is the time and place where a story's action occurs. For example, our alien story's setting might be Nevada in 1955. So that's on me. So now here comes the most important part of the video, and this is how to write a short story. We have discussed the back plot of it. So now it's the main part, and that is how to write a story. So first thing is imagination. Just like every other type of writing, a short story starts with a brainstorming. In fact, the process for writing a short story is the same as writing process for you to use others kind of writing like essays and presentations. Ask yourself this: what do I want my short story to be about? Jot that down. Do you already have a clear idea of who your characters or are the setting that they will inhabit? So, or are you starting a theme you want to convey and now you need to develop a story express themselves? So, start your brainstorming session with the elements you already have. Then flesh out your story idea from there. Write down your settings, your characters, the conflict, the phase, and any key plot point you have in mind. You can fill in details. Right now, the goal is to have some rough data to use for your outline. Don't have to move on the outlining. You have defined your story's conflicts. Without a conflict, you don't have a story. So, all of the five elements listed above are necessary for writing a great short story. Conflict is the one that drives your plot, shapes your characters, and enables you to express your theme. The next step in the writing short story fiction is outlining your story. So when you outline your story, you organize the notes for your brainstorming session actually into a coherent skeleton of your finished story. Outlining your story is a key part of pre-writing because it's where you develop your story's framework and sketch out how each scene follows the previous scene to advance the plot. The stage is where you determine any plot twists or big reveals and fit them into story sequence. Next time it's to write. Don't worry about the grammatical mistakes, you can fix them later. Don't worry about your narration or dialogue being extraneous or not making complete sense. We'll fix that later too. Right now you're working on a rough draft. Just get the story out of your imagination and onto the page without being self-conscious about it. Keep that first draft as tight as possible. You are writing a short story after all, so be economical with your words. Keep these tips in mind when you are writing. So here comes some points that you should always do. You don't need to explain everything. Give enough explanation so the reader understands what's happening in a scene. Don't slow them down with paragraphs of backstory and exposition. Second, keep the ending in mind as you write. Determine whether each sentence ultimately progresses the plot. If it doesn't, either cut or rework so it does progress the plot. Listen to how people speak. Then write dialogue that sounds like conversation. These conversations won't necessarily be grammatically correct, but they will make your character sound the way naturally speak. Once you have finished the first draft, let it rest. If you have luxury of waiting a day, finish the first draft, let it rest. If you have the luxury of waiting a day, also come back and read what you wrote. Do that you can read your writing again with fresh eyes, which makes it easier to spot inconsistencies and plot holes. Then it's time to edit. Read your writing again and note any places where you can make the writing more descriptive, more concise, more engaging. or simply more logical. At this stage, it can be very helpful to work with readers' feedback if you're comfortable sharing your work and receiving constructive criticism. Share a rough draft with friends and family, and if possible, with other writers, and let their feedback guide the revision you move past creative blocks. So I've got writer's block. Writer's block can strike at any point in the writing process. You might have a great idea for a short story, then find yourself struggling as you try to brainstorm ways to transform that idea into narrative. Or you might have no problem brainstorming and creating a coherent outline, but then feel like you're running a wall as you try to write linear scenes and craft realistic dialogue that advances the plot. Or maybe you aren't stuck in the sense that you don't know what to write, but you are having a hard time determining the most effective way to write it. It happens to every writer actually, because writer's block is such a universal condition. We gathered up a few helpful tips that you can defeat writer's block and write effective, engaging scenes. Next part is give writing prompt a shot. If getting started is what's giving you a hard time, consider using writing prompt. A writing prompt is like kindling for a short story. They're generally brief, at a sentence or two, and describe scenarios. Writer flesh it out into a full-fledged stories. Run a web search for writing prompts, and you will find out done. You can even tailor your search to specific genre like horror writing prompts or romantic comedy prompts. So skip the scene and work backwards. When a particular scene is what's making it difficult to move forward, skip it. There is no rule that says you have to write a short story in order. Just move ahead to the next scene that you can write, and then when you are finished, revisit the challenging one. In many cases, it's easier to write a scene once you know what happens after it. So, sprint. That's the next part. We've talked about writing sprints before also. They are a great way to make yourself writing faster. When it comes to busting through that brick wall of writer's block, sprinting can put you into mindset where writing words, any word, just to reach the word count goal in itself. You probably won't craft publishable prose this way, but you'll likely find creative ways through the difficult scene that you can build on later. So here comes the most important part, that you have written the story, you know everything, but you don't know how to distribute your short story. So here's the thing that will help you in distributing a short story. If you're like most authors, one of your goals is to publish your story actually. There are two main ways to do that: traditional publishing and self-publishing. In the short fiction world, traditional publishing generally means having it published in a literary magazine. There are thousands of literary magazines currently being published around the world, each with a unique combination of editorial focus, publishing schedule, submission process, acceptance rate, and payment for authors. Some literary magazines accept nearly even story they receive. Others select very few, as in single-digit % of the story submitted to publish. You can find literary magazines and contests resources such as Poems and Writer, Duotrop, and Writer's Digest. If you've got a collection of short stories that together are approximately book length, you can also query agents to have your work published that way. A few well-known short story collections include The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien and A Manual for Cleaning Women by Lucia Burnham. The other way to publish your work is self-publishing. With self-publishing, you don't need to have to work your greenlit by magazine editor or publishing house, although that hurdle isn't present. Self-publishing can be a complex process. As a self-published author, you're responsible for everything, including the elements like your short stories cover art, professional editing, formatting, marketing. Whether self-publishing is the right route for you, that depends on your goals for the short story. If you're looking to have your work featured in a widely circulated magazine, guaranteeing thousands of people read it, traditional publishing is the way to go. If your priority is simple to get work out there, or if you want a total control of every part of building your platform as an author, self-publishing can be the perfect choice. So that's all that I can share with you. And if anything that you can do, and the other is finding a writing community. For many authors, being part of a writing community is key part of staying in regular writing practice and striving to grow as a writer. Writing communities exist online and offline. Actually, some exist in simply places for writers to connect with each other, and others offering up more structure like a regular critic schedule. There are also writing communities built around writing challenges like Nike Midnight and Nano Vrimo. If you think you do benefit from being part of a writing community, find one that fits what you are looking for. start one yourself. You can find a writing community on social media and through websites like meetup.com. So other places to look for writing groups are local libraries and bookstores. And if you're a student or university, being part of a writing community can help get your work published in two ways. You can have authors read and critique your work, giving you direction that will help you make it more stronger. Other writers can connect with you, literary magazine, contests, and agents to potentially work with. If they've been published, they can also answer your questions and give a writer advice and what to do next when you are trying to publish your work. So that's all for the video. What's how to write a short story. This is the complete video, and you will find everything in it, and maybe you have understood every process of writing a short story. So what are you waiting for? Pick up a pen and start writing your ideas down, because every idea is important. You can't just leave any idea. So start writing and have a great day. So I'll meet you in the next video, and next video will be something different. I'll be telling you how can you do narrative writing actually, or what is narrative writing, if you can say. So that's for the video. Thank you.